Wait on you. Do it. Oh, I'm counting down? Okay, so go and go. 3, 2, 1, go. Good luck.
They're doing a countdown so they can start about the same time, so they don't have to sync it as much. Alright, so this game actually has a series of warps where there's actually like these little fruits that normally you would collect to gain health. But if you punch it, it gets bigger, so you'd get more health. But if you punch it a last time, normally it would just break and you can't get any health. But if you pop it, it'll actually turn into a warp if it happens to be one of the warped fruits. You just don't know without actually popping it. So you'll see here they're actually going straight to the fruit and warping. And it actually skips a lot of the game. Now the Plok actually has quite a few vehicles throughout the game, and the helicopter is pretty difficult to control. It's like it has this really weird momentum system. So the beginning of the game, they're both pretty consistent. Here at the beginning, there's like the way they slide down, they have to get like pretty close to like, there's like a couple frames to make the jump. They actually skip the whole bottom of the level there, and then they hit the saw. So here on the Cotton Island, the key is to slide down as quick as you can and hit the platform at the very end, because the platform doesn't start its little progression until you touch it. So you have to like kind of awkwardly hop off of the hill at the very end. Then we're hopping into another warp. Now these warps are actually pretty difficult just on their own, like even just playing casually. And on a speed run, the warps themselves are timed, and the first two are a little easier, but a lot of the later warps, you'll actually see that they're honestly just right on the edge of actually just failing the warp, and it kills the run. So if you can read it, I actually recommend reading all the text that appears on screen. Plok has a pretty funny story. It's like all these fleas have like stolen the flags. He's Plok's getting pissed off that all the fleas are stealing the flags, and he's like, "I'm going home. If I find a flea there, I'm gonna really go off." And he finds a flea, and that's what he was just fighting there. Like, all right, we finally got the two runs synced up. It's a little easier to tell who's pulling ahead. So Plok can slide down hills. It's very minimal time save on most areas. And the black and white is normal. It's just playing as Plok's grandfather. right, so this coming up, this is a single frame jump where the game was not designed for that at all. It's where they have to jump when they hit the little saw on the ground that they like transform into, and then they actually hit part of the ceiling and they can like clip through it. And for the longest time, people would actually just run all the way down to the end, and that level actually took a good 30 seconds longer. It's a very difficult jump to get right. Both of them actually managed to do it, which is pretty cool. And so here, you can see Sandstone killing himself. It's actually a mechanic of the game where in a normal run, I think they're like Azarius is saving all of his lives, and Sandstone might save a couple just in case they do die for the race, just because they don't have, you know, they can't just reset. But normally they would just kill themselves so they don't have to do it later, because there's a particular mechanic that they will be manipulating. And the reason they kill themselves on this level is just because this is the earliest that they can take damage, like from when he actually resurrects. So if you see Azarius on the left, the goal for the speedrun is to actually be as close to this log that he is trailing. Like, you can actually get too close and touch it, but you want to be as close as you can to it trailing, because that's the fastest you could be for the beginning of that level. And then here you have to make sure you don't lose too much damage, or lose too much health, because you actually have to tank damage to get those saws. In Plok, your health is actually a very valuable resource for speedrunning, where there's a lot of certain areas where you just really cannot take damage because you need that health to be able to tank in certain parts where you can actually just save so much time. So we see Arius actually starting the first big boss fight against the Bobbin Bros. And this boss fight is actually very difficult as well. Like they spit little fingernails at you, and you have to set up. They've gotten really good at like setting up these patterns to where they usually just kind of stick together, but they're very, very awkward to fight. And we see Sandstone starting it on the right. So this is Plok's grandfather. He's finally found his secret amulet that gives him the special power to transform into a saw. And there's like little gold shells that they've been collecting, and they can actually like throw away those shells or like burn them to actually, that's what they use to turn into the saw blade. So now Plok is planning on just using the saw to help kill all of the fleas. He must exterminate them from his island. Alright, so Arius on the left here, you can actually see he's about to get the first Plok-tinue. So that's actually the only mechanic the game has for if you actually die and like lose all your lives. Normally you're done. You can't keep playing. And so if you actually beat a level without dying, it gives you one of the letters of the name Plok at the top right. And then once you get all 4 of the letters, if you lose your last life, it'll actually just give you 3 more lives. And they're manipulating in a way to where Plok-tinue, like the developers actually messed up. And if you get Plok-tinue on certain levels, it'll actually skip that level and just progress you to the beginning of the next level. So here we're seeing Sandstone doesn't have to kill himself as many times because he killed himself more efficiently on the other level as a grandfather. Supposed to be more efficiently. It's not a huge time difference. So this boss fight, the Penkanos, it's a really awkward boss to fight because Plok can't actually attack them directly, usually. This is the first time you see the little targets that he punches, and the targets actually absorb his limbs, and they teleport to the hangar, and he has to run back to the hangar to collect his limbs, because he actually throws his limbs as his weapon. And he's punching the targets to actually like turn these weird little spheres into like spikes, so that the bosses drop to the ground. That way he can actually reach them to punch them and hurt them. You can see there, Arius tank to hit. So Penkanos is another very large proponent to the benefit of saving health, so that you can actually just take damage in certain ways to save a ton of time. So Arius is coming up on a section where you can actually jump up into the spikes, and when you take damage, it kind of bounces you up. So they're using that to actually usually skip a portion of the level that's a little bit faster. So there, he just made it. And then that jump right after it is actually also very difficult, where they have to slide down. See, Sandstone's doing it now. Yeah, he missed it. So you have to like slide down, and there's like a single frame jump that you have to make to like get on top of the little blue things. So you see both of these guys are actually spamming all of their shells because they don't want to have too many shells, because if you get enough shells, you actually get a bonus life, and there's an animation as part of the like getting the bonus life, and it actually tanks a lot of, or it wastes a lot of time for the speedrun. And unfortunately, it looks like Arius actually messed up the secret warp. So yeah, he's having to start that level over. But that's why he's been keeping the lives. So you see Sandstone on the right. This level, the first part's not too hard. There's like a jump coming up right here where like you have to kind of get on this awkward platform, and the timing can be very difficult. And then here, these little like blue things that he's shooting with the water, you can actually, he's hitting it, generally he'll hit it once where he kind of bumps it and slows down, but sometimes you'll hit it twice, and if you do that too many times, you actually just fail the entire warp. And the attack that Sandstone is using to hit Womack, the spider boss, they actually learned from the TAS, and a lot of people in the beginning actually thought it was not possible for humans to do, and it actually takes a lot of practice just to be able to connect with them. Womack takes much longer period of time if you don't attack him like the TAS does. Another thing too is that when you do beat the bosses, you have to wait for the little white flag. The flag is really slow. So on some levels, you can actually manipulate how close the flag is to the flagpole to actually save a little bit of time. But unlike Womack, you can't. It's a set position. So you can see Sandstone has just started a Creepy Crag. This is one of the most difficult levels in the game. There's just so many little things that can go wrong. And there's actually a series of things where they actually break the ceiling above them, and you're supposed to go to the bottom, and there's like these little platforms that ride up, but they've actually managed to time it to where they can actually just ride or like hop up through the ceiling as it's breaking, so they can just skip the whole bottom of the level. You see Arius fighting Womack here, and he's actually not using the task tactic of doing damage, which is definitely much harder to do, much less reliable to do the task attack. So the way he did it was usually more solid. Creepy Crag is actually one level that I think it's the only level in the game that has a soft lock, to where if you do it in a weird order, like if you're just casually playing the game, you know, not like a speedrunner that just has it all memorized, you can actually just lose your limbs to the little targets, and then there's just the hangers are impossible to get your limbs back. So you actually just have to reset the game if you mess up.
Or die.
You see Sandstone's finally finishing up Creepy Crag. Still waiting for the flag. So that present that Arius was just next to, it's actually a trap in this game, to where it actually just... Normally the presents kind of give you like an alternate mode where you have like a different weapon, and it usually makes Plok a little bit more powerful. But that one is actually a dud, and he gives you a gun that just shoots a little flag that says bang. So you really have to avoid that for speedrunning, because you actually have to wait for the timeout. So the level that Sandstone is on the right, he in the very beginning, the developers decided to just take all of your legs, so you have to hop around. So like, you cannot move left or right without jumping unless you're holding down. And if you're holding down on a slope, it'll actually kind of slide Plok. And that's what they've been using to actually move a little bit quicker in certain areas. And it's a very, very awkward level. Arius is finally finishing Creepy Crag now. Ooh, so Sandstone just landed a... Plok has little bees. There's like these little things that he collects, so he can spit out bees that kind of help attack things. And there's like this little guy that floats. And if you kill him, he drops like a little gem that makes you invulnerable for a very short time. And the bees actually managed to kill that guy this time. It's very unreliable. Normally Plok has to shoot him, and he has like a shield, and it's a really weird mechanic. But Sandstone actually has enough health that he's actually tanking, so he's not fighting the other Dukes. There's like 3 different areas where you kind of have to fight this guy to get the invulnerability gems. You can jump up on the spikes, but if you have enough health, you can actually skip the whole thing. So the warp that Sandstone just started might actually be the most difficult warp in the game. You have to prematurely fire a grenade while jumping on one of the arches and hit the green at the bottom, hit the little green balls, so you can actually go through it without it taking too much time. Ooh. You just barely missed that warp. He was on the finish line and it hit 0 seconds, giving Arius a little bit more time to catch up. Looks like Arius is getting lucky with the bees as well. Yes, there's the shield guy where the bees actually didn't kill him. So Sandstone messed up the warp a 3rd time there, giving Arius a little bit more time to catch up. Yeah, they're about on the same page now. Where they both made the warp. Arius made it a little bit quicker. Or well, a lot quicker if you count the failed attempts. So this jetpack that Plok is riding now is actually the most awkward vehicle. It's the only one that's worse than the helicopter. And you have so little control over Plok, and then they're doing these little zips at the bottom of the map where Plok has 1 pixel alignment, where like they generally use like his eyeballs based on like the water level, where they're like lining up so they can actually just zip through the bottom of the level and skip all the bad guys at the top. You'll actually see more zips at the bottom of the level coming up with the different vehicles. Yeah, multiple places there where they're actually just tanking damage because it kind of bounces them over the little walls instead of shooting grenades at them to slowly break them. So we're getting back to the helicopter again. So Arius is actually, ooh, we missed the second one. So no one's actually figured out what, and we can see Sandstone attempting now to clip underneath these little barriers. No one has actually been able to figure out what makes it succeed and what doesn't. Like, it's just, it seems completely random whether or not you actually manage to clip under it. So you can see Arius and Sandstone are both trying to line up for the zip at the bottom of the level. And it's actually very difficult because on this level there's multiple zips that you have to do, and when you are exiting the first zip, it actually kind of bounces you down a little bit, and so you actually aren't perfectly lined up for the next zip anymore. So you have to like quickly readjust and hope that you get it. And you also have to be going quick enough. You can't just like go at it at a casual speed. You actually have to have quite a bit of momentum going into it to make it through the little barrier. You can see Arius wasting a few shells just to make sure he doesn't get a bonus life. So this is the level that they're actually going to skip. This is a very awkward and long level. And so they're both going to go to the end, and there's actually a letter that they can get that finishes the Plok at the top right, so they can actually do another Plok continue to skip the level and go to the next. So you'll see Arius is a little bit ahead, but he actually has one extra life, so it'll take him a little bit longer to kill himself so he can reset and skip the level. Ooh, and Arius just got a bonus block. So that'll actually, now he has to kill himself one more time, and he wasted a little bit of time doing the animation of getting the bonus life. So the UFO that Plok is in now is the only vehicle that actually responds pretty well to the inputs that you give. Like it doesn't really have any awkward lag or like momentum or anything. Like it really does just exactly what you put into the D-pad. Ooh, Arius taking a bunch of damage. We'll see if he gets hit by one of the stray bullets. So we've got another zip here at the bottom of the level. Sandstone got it on his first try. believe they're both approaching the final boss now. Yep, so this is the flea queen. Queen of all fleas, and the source of the problem. So this vehicle, we've not actually... I don't think it's in the run. I think it's the first time we've seen the little spring feet. Very awkward, because when you land, it automatically jumps to you. You have no control over your vertical positioning. All you have is left and right, and it's like a shotgun. It's a pretty nice little gun. So the queen actually poops out some little fleas, and you have to kill them for her to drop, and then she only becomes vulnerable when she drops. Strangely enough, there's no way to tank damage on this boss to make it happen any quicker. You really just kind of have to wait it out. So it's more about just killing the fleas that she poops out as quickly as possible and not dying. So Sandstone only one hit away from death here at the very end. Could be really close. Ooh, and Sandstone finishes. That's the end of the run. A very difficult game. It's crazy how both runners managed to catch up to each other multiple times when they'd fall behind on different areas, and then just the challenge of the game would let them catch back up to one another. I do believe the difficulty of this game is what keeps so many runners away from it, because there really is not a huge collection of people that play the game. Yeah, great run from both of the players here.
I was actually